Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurmond, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk about this proposal from Governor Gavin Newsom, which would essentially take the California Department of Education away from your separate constitutional office and have the governor of California moving forward oversee it. Have you talked to Governor Newsom about this yet?
Not directly. His staff has reached out to say that this is something he's been interested in for a long time. And we've said, hey, give us some information about why and how do you see it benefiting California students? And we're still looking for some of that information, but we're prepared to, provide public testimony and explain where we see benefit and where it may not be good for kids.
So you could see some benefits to this?
I don't think the proposal in and of itself is a bad idea. I mean, essentially, if you want to say that you want the governor more directly involved in education, that's always a good thing. What's confusing to me is how it's different than what we currently have. Because right now, the governor has the most influence over everything in education by virtue of setting the budget and being able to veto or sign legislation into law. And so I'm not sure what additional this provides, but if there is an effort to get the governor more directly involved in supporting education, that's always a good thing.
So, this is a separate constitutional office. This would be stripping power from your predecessor, at least. I mean, what concerns do you have about that, if you have any?
Well, just to be on the surface of the proposal, it does strip away the main functions that the state superintendent plays. And that's overseeing 1,500 people across 8 different offices in our state who are working to help 6 million students. And so it essentially makes the state superintendent someone who would attend 4 high-level committees, but it's not clear what work that person would do. I submit that what they should be doing, instead of weakening the state superintendent position, is that they should be strengthening it. And I am concerned about, this won't affect me, but the next person who is elected as state superintendent should have as much support as they can to do what's a very difficult job to begin with, but an important job. And so I see it as a bit of a stripping away of the tools that the state superintendent would have to do the job.
Yeah, sorry, I recognize I said predecessor, I meant successor. The governor points to what he calls long-standing recommendations from the Policy Analysis for California Education report that says education is being governed by a, quote, fragmented set of entities with overlapping roles. Do you agree with that?
I think we have a very complicated education system. We do. There are all these layers. There's a state superintendent, and then there are these county offices of education, in every county, and then local districts have a superintendent. And so there's no doubt that there are layers, and to someone who doesn't work in education, it might seem complicated. I don't see where there's any overlap. I don't see where there's any conflict, and I certainly don't see how this creates some kind of direct impact. Everyone who works in education knows that when you want something done in education in the budget, the governor has the most influence over that. Everyone knows that the state superintendent's position is largely more, has to lobby the governor, has to work through the legislature, but is often a good spokesperson on behalf of local districts. And so, that language to me doesn't completely match up because everyone who works in education knows exactly where the decision-making levers are. And so, again, I'm not sure what the proposal changes, and I keep asking, where's the direct benefit to students? If I see that, I can get behind it. That has not yet been shared in any way.
Do you think this is the governor's indictment of your work in that office over the last nearly 8 years?
I don't see how it could be because we've worked extremely closely together over these last 8 years. We made that commitment coming into this office that rather than him appointing a secretary of education as other governors have, that we would work together. And even if we didn't agree on things, we'd find a way to work together. And by and large, we've done that. Together, we have created preschool for every 4-year-old, a free preschool, by the way, universal meals for every hungry student, $4 billion for mental health, $6 billion to close the digital divide. We had 1 million kids without computers, and now we have resources to make sure they have computers and high-speed internet. This governor's done really well for California kids in terms of funding and supporting education, and we've partnered on just about every single initiative. And so I'm not sure where there'd be any daylight between us on what kids need or what we're doing for kids. Our reading scores are going up, our math scores are going up. There's a lot more that we have to do, but we are seeing improvement for California students. And so I'm not really sure what the problem is that this proposal seeks to solve. But we're going to stay focused on what kids need, and that means making sure they learn to read by 3rd grade and a whole bunch of other things that I'd love to share with you.
But sort of on the other side of that, California is spending more money than ever on education. But critics have noted, I mean, Republicans, in response to the governor's state of the state, said that many California students, more than half, are struggling in reading, are struggling in math, are not prepared for college. Whose fault is that?
Yeah. It's baffling to me that this so-called achievement gap has existed probably my whole life. I'm 57 years old. We've always been talking about closing the achievement gap. When I came to this office, I noticed extremely low scores in reading and math and graduation rates. And they've gone up. Now, along the way, we've had to navigate a pandemic, which set schools back. But this state has invested more in the comeback type of programs to help kids. Longer days of school, more tutoring, more counseling. This state has done more than any other state to help kids overcome the losses of learning during the pandemic. By the way, every state has experienced that. And so while we do have more work to do, California still falls somewhere in the 30s in terms of per pupil spending compared to other states. That should not be. We should be number one in what we give our kids. We should be number one in the technology we provide for them. It was heartbreaking to go into the pandemic and to see 1 million kids without a computer or access to the high-speed internet. How were they supposed to learn in that moment? We're coming back. This year, you're going to see that we're working to make kindergarten a requirement, so every student starts school with the right structures. We have this transitional kindergarten and more supports around reading and math. And so Californians are showing that they're on the rise, and we're going to keep doing the work to help ensure that they get there.
You mentioned the pandemic, and I'm not just picking on you when I ask this question, because I've asked it of the legislature, but essentially every constitutional office really gave Governor Gavin Newsom the power for a lot of things. And I wonder if you could have exerted more power when it came to how children were being educated during that time, when it came to the resources that were provided to students during that time. Could you have done more to avoid the situation that you're in now, where the governor is pitching this proposal to take power away from you?
The fact of the matter is, the position of state superintendent doesn't have any direct power, doesn't have any direct authority over any budgetary line item. As a matter of fact, in other states, the appointed secretaries of education have more direct authority than the current position does here in California. But what I've learned is that there are ways to facilitate and use your leadership to get things done. I've had to work with the legislature. I sponsor 20 bills every single year, including the legislation that got us to $6 billion to get those kids access to the internet and computers. I had to go to the business community to get donations of computers. California should never be begging. We are the technological center of the world. We should have already had these things in place. But seeing that, I went out and did that work to help kids get what they need. And so there's nothing that we didn't do that I wish we could do differently. I wish we didn't have a pandemic. People were dying, and we did everything that we could to keep people safe and to say that kids deserve to have access to an education. But under those circumstances, education was affected. And nothing is more important than us working hard to help kids recover and bounce back. And our students are showing that. We have a lot more work to do. I'm committed to doing that for the next several years. And I'm proud of what our educators and students are putting together, and we have to do more to support them.
You sent a letter to the legislative leaders asking to be heard, essentially, on this proposal. What are you hoping comes out of that? I mean, I know you mentioned you're convening listening sessions from the department. What feedback have you gotten so far?
I think people have more questions than anything. They're wondering, what does this reconfiguration, if it's implemented, really mean? Again, the people who, you cited in your opening, the reports that have been written, people have tried 4 times to create a non-elected position for state superintendent. And each time that has failed. The voters have said that they want an elected person who is accountable to the voters. My thing is, I can get behind any proposal if it shows where there's a direct benefit for students. This proposal, without providing any funding to support the initiatives, won't change anything. And so I can't see the value in it by itself. But we have to invest in the programs. You have to invest in the department. The Department of Education has been underfunded for decades. You know, Governor Brown and in his time literally diverted money away from the California Department of Education and put it into a whole new entity that he created called the California Collective for Education. Again, weakening the impact of CDE over the last several years. And so we're trying to build it back. And so by asking for input into the legislative process, I want to be able to inform the legislators as they're reviewing these proposals. I want them to be informed by those who have had years of experience. You know, my 8 years is one thing, but we have employees who've worked for the department for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. No one has been consulted about this proposal. The researchers didn't consult us. The governor and his team didn't consult us. They just said, we want to do this. And I'm saying, if it's good for kids, let's make sure you're consulting those with the expertise to design programs that make sense to help California kids.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention sort of the politics here. I mean, you are running for California governor.
I am.
Governor Newsom has not determined who exactly he would like to succeed him, but no bad blood here with him. I mean, you don't see this as a way of him trying to block you from that office?
I don't understand his motivations for doing it. You know, all I have been told from his staff is that he's always wanted to do it. I got a text message from him saying he's always wanted to do it. And I've said, hey, shed some light on what it is that you want to do. Again, I keep asking the question, how will this be good for California students? I won't stand in the way of that. If it's good for the kids, then I want to make it happen. Short of that, I don't see any benefit for our kids, and it's hard for me to get behind it. I'll leave it to you and others to determine about why he might want to do it. But as a candidate for governor, I'm focused on what I've introduced, a 5-year plan to make sure our kids learn to read by 3rd grade. My whole life, people have been talking about the importance of reading by 3rd grade. Makes the difference between graduating high school and maybe ending up in the criminal justice system. I want to see that happen in our lifetime. And I'm putting my work and my sweat equity behind making that happen, not behind making shifts that won't have any direct benefit for the students in our state.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, we really appreciate all your time.
Thank you.